Hey, welcome to Talking Texas Politics with Calvin. We're going to continue discussing school bonds today. And in particular, we're going to talk about how school bonds impact renters. Because there is a myth out there that if you are a renter, that the school bond will not impact you because you don't pay property tax. However, if you took high school economics, you know that as expenses go up on goods and services, that the prices go up on goods and services. And so if the property taxes are increased on a rental property, then that will be passed through to the renter. And that's typically how things work. But to get a little more specific about how rental property is treated here in the state of Texas, let's talk a little bit about the homestead exemption. So if you're a property owner, if you're a homeowner, you are allowed a homestead exemption, which there's a proposal that will be voted on later this year to raise that to $140,000. So essentially, if you take the appraised value of your property, you reduce that by $140,000. That's what you ultimately end up paying property taxes on. And so, in addition to that, there is also a limit to how much they can increase your appraised value, and that's capped at 10%. So, for example, we've had over the last 5 years, we've had years where property values have increased 30% or something to that effect. They can only raise it in 10% increments per year, so that kind of limits the growth. That only applies to your homestead. So if you own multiple properties, in theory, it should only apply to the property that you actually live in, your homestead. And so if you own rental properties, none of that apply, which means that the property taxes will increase at a much more rapid rate than what it would on your homestead. And of course, this stuff doesn't always work. This is just in general. But that's generally speaking the way that it's supposed to work. So you're supposed to get a break on the home that you live in, your homeowner, your homestead exemption. But if you have additional cash generating properties, those don't apply. So I think that there is a fairly good potential that over the next 4 or 5 years, with some of these massive school bonds that they're proposing, that the rental properties and the rent in these areas are going to increase even at a much greater rate than what the homeowner's property tax bill is going to go up. So the idea that you don't pay property taxes, so it shouldn't matter if you're a renter, that's simply a myth. And so I hope everybody thinks about that, because whether you're a homeowner or a renter, you are voting yourself an increase either in property taxes or in rent. And so think about that as you walk into that voting booth. And I appreciate everyone listening to me today. So God bless you, and God bless Texas.